Hey everyone, it's Midnight Spectre, and today I've got a bit of a lighthearted video for you guys. So I hope everyone remembers to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the video. So I think I briefly mentioned this in another video, but when I was first going to college, I wanted to be a video game designer. I had big dreams of working for some big publisher, and to have my name in the credits of a video game that'd hopefully be someone's favorite. But of course, just like how my parents shot down my dream of being an artist, they shot down my dream of being a game designer, saying there's no money in that. Anyway, I decided I was going to be a bit of a rebel, and I got the chance to pick my own classes, and I was like, oh, my parents can't control this, I can pick anything. So I picked a few classes centered around video games. One class was the history of video games, which I really loved because we delved deep, and I mean deep, into the history of video games. We started talking about some dudes screwing around in the lab with oscilloscopes and making the first ever iteration of Pong, to the whole ET and Atari debacle, and even mentioning more modern stuff like EVE Online and the wars, how many people and how they throw money at that game so much. Safe to say, I was pretty optimistic about my chances of being a video game designer. I understood the history of video games, and I had, and well still do, have a passion for video games, and I recognize them as an art form. I felt like I was ready to take on my next big adventure, and that was to make an actual video game, and to take an actual video game design class. I was pretty excited for this class. I imagined this after this class throwing together a few simple video games and putting them up there online for people to enjoy, and beginning my portfolio of video games to take to a big publisher one day. Oh, how naive I was. So in our design class, we used a program called Game Maker, which I'm not even sure if it's still around anymore. I think it was falling out of favor when I was taking the class, so I wonder if it's even still being updated. It was pretty simple. You drag and drop assets there were pre-written code blocks for collision and health and stuff like that. And I'm going to be honest, I was probably the worst at designing video games. I never really could get that spark or anything that could really wow the class with my games. My games would always pass the functionality test, but for the most part they were clones of stuff that was already available. Although my favorite part of Game Maker was being able to change the icons of the executables and splash screens, so I'd always have some sort of meme or silly screenshot from a YouTube video in them. Yeah, I was that person. Anyway, here comes the end of the semester. We had to create a demo of a game to show off to the class, and they would vote on which one they wanted to make. I was obsessed with Dan and Phil, two English YouTubers that were roommates, and they would do vlog-style content. Anyway, I'd make this little RPG demo with the two YouTubers, and I called it Captain Phil's Space Adventure. As luck would have it, it broke during my presentation, somehow. Anyway, the mock investors that we had didn't choose my game. So we had a few games that did get funded, and that we would end up being broken off into teams to work on these games. I, of course, was trying to be the dark, mysterious anime protagonist, which was funny because I hadn't watched Death Note, because I'd only watched Death Note at the time, and Puya Madoka Magical Girls. So I didn't have a lot to go off, but I didn't really talk to anyone or make friends with anyone in the class. So eventually I got paired up with the last group of the class that needed teammates. Now, I should have known trouble was brewing when I suggest something and everyone would steamroll over it, but someone else would suggest the same thing and everyone would be like, wow, that's pretty good, and run with it. After a while, I would just silently sit with the rest of the group during group project time and work on whatever they told me to. I was actually pretty proud of myself for getting ladders to work, even though at the time Game Maker didn't have a pre-written code block for ladders for some reason. I don't think the engine was ever meant to handle a 2D platformer, but they had a code block for jumping, so I'm not sure on that one. Anyway, everything progressed pretty well until the day of our presentation. The group decided at the last minute to input something into the game, even though I said, hey, we already have a build that's tested and known to be good. We should run with that instead of trying to risk on something we made before class started. But as per usual, I was ignored. I figured, what was the worst that happened? Well, I know trouble's brewing when the leader of our group was poring over her laptop, rapidly pressing keys, trying to get the game to work, and muttering under her breath. When it was time for our group to go, she said that we needed more time, and so another group ahead of us went. I could tell that she was getting increasingly frantic, and I figured maybe I could be a second set of eyes to look at the game, so I walked over there and I was asked, hey, is everything alright? And I shit you not, in the deepest, angriest tone that I've ever heard, she says, it's fucking broken, and goes back to pressing keys on her laptop. I was pretty taken aback by this, and I figured, well, I should just sit back and prepare myself for an impending F on this project. Well, I was not prepared for what would happen next. Just as the last group of 4 hours was wrapping up, the group leader throws her laptop down on the ground and runs out of the classroom absolutely bawling, which of course made everyone turn and look at our group. At this point, I was pretty unnerved by the situation, and me being really awkward, walked up to the front of the classroom with the rest of my group and was like, "So, yeah, our game is broken. Sorry about that." After that, we wrapped up, and I grabbed my things and left to take the train back home. Safe to say, we failed that group project, and I didn't see my group leader for the rest of my time in college. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed this week's video. I hope everyone remembers to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for next week's video. See you!